I listened to it today. You sent it to me today, and I gotta say, it was there was a lot more electronic influence in there that I thought was really cool, and I just want to know what's the deal with that.
So, with most of the studio stuff for Lying, it's actually just me. Ebin and Guy have just kind of been helping out with the live stuff.
Right.
Bringing in more people for the studio stuff is something that I'm interested in. But to be honest with you, all the stuff that I've hit send on since whenever has just been me releasing basically just like stuff that's been in the back catalog for God knows how long.
So this stuff has been cooking for a while.
I wrote and recorded Give Me That, like the first one on there.
Yeah.
Over a year ago. And then just now just kind of hit send and polished it up.
Yeah, I got the file a year ago to start practicing it. So.
Right.
Yeah, I got it a while back. But that's not to say that we haven't made anything together. I've made it quite a bit with Levi. Like, I actually met him. We started by producing stuff together, basically.
Right.
But yeah, like, that's something I noticed right away getting into the band is that, like, I guess a lot more of the sound for, like, the recordings is that more electronic thing. Like, I've heard a lot of that side of Levi's stuff before joining the actual band. So it was like, at first I was like, oh, how should we integrate this? But then it's kind of more like the live shows have their thing and the recordings have their thing.
You know, that's not to say that the live shows don't incorporate that. Because I think especially with what you do, with what you showed me with, you know, plugging in directly.
True.
With and I don't know if Guy you do that with your bass, but with your guitar, it definitely has that tone. Like you have your like signature like guitar tone, that I think is super cool. And then there's also the but it's definitely way more electronic on the recording, which I think is really cool. I think it's really different. And I think it is a good idea for bands out there to distinguish what they do live with what's recorded, so you can get away with a lot more.
It's also a fun process to like kind of like I write as I'm recording things.
Yeah.
So like I'm writing with a drum machine or like adding some synths and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Or like, you know, like big like 808 basses or
and
whatever.
Choruses,
like,
like layered vocals. You can't do that live.
No.
I mean, some bands can, but then it's like, oh shit, we got 6 people. Is this like slow-mo?
Yep.
That's pretty awesome.
We got like 6 people on stage, and it's like taking it up. But like if you want to do that same effect, you like you said, you just need one person recording, and you can do anything you want.
I mean, like when you get to like the choruses of that song, you're probably hearing like 16 vocals.
So, are you playing the drums in those recordings?
That's all like programmed, just
All
like drum
programmed?
machine stuff.
What's your opinion on drum machines? Because I think it's a bit of a divisive topic, and
Very
I'd like to get
pro drum machine.
and I'd like to get Evan's take on this too, because you know he is a drummer. But
Ebin might want to shut his ears when Levi talks about drum machines.
right.
Yeah, well, honestly, I have nothing against drum machines. Like, I've used it in the off-piece recordings before. And so, honestly, you could get a cleaner and more distinct sound sometimes. And personally, it's more of an artistic choice and less of a, like, oh, you don't have the ability to record it. Because, like, eventually we're probably going to do a live album of all the songs that Levi has made.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I think the biggest argument against drum machines, it's like it's soulless. There's it's stale. There's no dynamics to it. It all sounds the same. I feel like that's probably like the majority take that I hear. That's probably what most people side on. So like, do you think those people are kind of like have like a elitist mindset and they should be a bit more open-minded, or is there some truth to that?
I think they need to get better at programming drums.
Yeah. Like from a producer standpoint, like that you can make fake drums sound really real and you can make them sound just as lively. But I think sometimes, like especially with Levi's stuff, sometimes what you're after is almost that like canned drum sound. Yeah. So like I think that doesn't sound soulless. It just sounds like, oh, it's the machine. It's like the machine drum, that old school kind of sound.
Yeah.
But like if you wanted to program something that has feel to it, you can also do that, I think.
And how do you do that? What program do you use? Also, Andrew, you can turn up Guy's mic a little bit.
I do everything in Ableton. and all the live stuff. So like all our guitars and sometimes our vocals are going through Ableton Live as well, like when we're playing places.
And you just like sample drums from there, and then just, or do you have a drum pad? Or?
I occasionally will actually like kind of play in drums with
Yeah.
MIDI controllers or whatever, but usually I'm just clicking them in.
Well, not for live though.
Yeah, but they're all classic, like old drum machines, like 707s, like 505. I don't know if that's what I've
Well,
heard.
and
in
that's
this
that's
stuff.
another thing is like it's also an artistic choice in the sense of like some of those old drum machines that you're hearing those on tons of your favorite records, and it's also kind of part of the aesthetic at that point.
Do you think, and this is just like if you have any on the top of your head, like what's like a surprising like drum machine used in like music that people might not have known? It's like, oh shit.
Scarlet Begonias by Sublime. That's a drum machine sampled from like not Authority, but it's like an old rap group.
Mhm.
That's all sampled drums, and a lot of like old ska stuff and hip hop is all
Really?
sampled.
Well, yeah, I mean, people know hip hop, of course. I mean, you know, it's just it's a lot of sampling and stuff. But for some reason, they get a pass to just kind of sample everything in. But I guess we got to do everything. We got to do everything hard. What are we doing? What is this?
We're opening the ska count.
Yeah, we're at number 1.
Oh no.
Is that right? Really?
Yeah, can we get that up in like the like
Ska count.
somewhere up here maybe? Yeah.
Strike one.
Strike 1.
Strike one.
I'll wait
Hey.
to throw in another one.
Okay, cool.
Hey, I'll wait like 10 minutes.
Before what?
One I
Start
think
the
about all the
10-minute
time.
counter.
Yeah.
That song "I Want to Dance with Somebody"
Yeah.
was I wrote like a 15-page paper about this in college about how it was the first number one to use the classic like 808 drum machine.
Mm.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Pretty banger.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of stuff, like when you hear recordings, a lot of it's sample replaced. Like, I feel like only in certain genres and like in scenes are you really hearing like live drums these days. A lot of it's replaced or just very specifically sectioned out and produced in certain orders. It's very different than just like capturing a band in a room at one point.
I mean, like nowadays, I mean, there's the capability of just like a drummer writing a part and you literally just mapping the whole thing out
Yeah.
and having it sound perfect. And the only thing stopping you from doing that is pretty much just sitting down and being like, okay, well, like, not to say it's like an ego thing. It's just more of like a you wrote it, you play it thing, which is like, I totally understand that. But it's just interesting. You know, you can just, if you don't feel like playing the drums, you don't have to. But not to say that there's no skill in programming them. It's like, I have no fucking clue how to do that. And coming from someone who doesn't know how to play drums, I'd rather fucking figure it out on the drums and try to program it, because that shit is awful. For me. Because I'm bad at that kind of shit.
It can be a miserable learning curve, but once you kind of get it down, it's like I kind of can like have like basic drums programmed out on a track in like 15 minutes.
Right.
And then I can record around that. And then like one of the last steps I do with a song is I'm like, how can I make the drums interesting the whole time? And then I go back in and do all of the like kind of making the drums feel a little more real, lively, adding some drum fills, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Adding breaks, all those little things.
Interesting. Very cool. I mean, yeah, and then it's one thing to do that kind of shit in post, and then there's another thing where like you can incorporate that live, and it's like, you know, like Guy was busy that week, so you were able to just two-man it and just. I was fucking real talk, like I was blown away. I was like,
Did you like the ass?
the what?
The ass.
Whose ass?
The ass.
Whose ass?
The 3-string bass.
I had no idea. Yeah, I mean, it was. I liked the sound that came out of it. I'm like, where's this guitar tone coming out of? Where's the bass tone coming out of? I had no idea what was happening, and it sounded good. It sounded solid. It sounded good.
It's big, like you hear it, you know?
Well, first of all, good is relative, but do you want to explain how that setup works?
Yeah, so again, we're doing everything in
I love
Ableton.
this.
I have a bass patch that's just kind of a traditional bass sound. And then I have another bass track that has less low end, more distorted, that's also right down the middle.
Okay.
So the bass kind of like cuts through in a bass way. But then I also, on both sides, I have like stereo guitar stuff, so it's the bass was getting pitched up an octave, and then running through like traditional guitar amp stuff.
I'm gonna pretend like I completely understood all of that and be like, wow, that's really cool. I never.
It's
That-
the
that-
equivalent of having 3 amps on stage, right?
Yeah, it would
Okay.
be like having 3 amps on stage, and
I-
then like
For one instrument.
Is there any harmony or pitch thing going on, or is
yeah,
it
there's a pitch shifting going on. So there's also an extra octave. So there's the bass octave,
an octaver? Okay.
and then there's an octave up that's doing the guitar stuff.
Interesting, man. Yeah, I think that's way cooler than like well, it's also a lot easier than like pre-recording a bass, because then you have to play in time with that pre-recording, and that just seems like a fucking.
That's the thing, is that
like-
just seems like a bitch for Ebin.
Yeah,
Is
exactly.
then he has to play
Yeah.
to a click.
And then he has to have a monitor, or or
And
like a
then-
headset on, and
Also, like
I'm working on it.
the investment in like drum triggers and headphones, like that's a lot.
I've already got them.
Are you serious? I mean, I
Working on
guess
it.
we just need to start practicing with them, but I think probably in the next couple months, like we could totally roll that out for live shows.
We've talked about it.
yeah, I can tell. That's cool. That's cool stuff. So that way you can just replace Ebin too. He can just automize
Thank
his
God.
his career, his job.
Damn.
I'm just kidding.